Welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. I'm Captain Rick Riles. This is where we start off in Costa Rica, run right back to the northeast corner of the state, and then go all around the state, getting the fishing reports and the fishing predictions. What's coming up? What's the weather doing? Where's the bait? What's biting? Holy smokes, we've got some stuff that is red hot this week. Kingfish are red hot in Jacksonville. I know the sales down south in the Stewart area. There's going to be fishing reports scattered all over the state. So grab a cold drink and sit back, because we're going to take you to the 12 hot spots of Florida and find out what's going on out on the waterway. Tonight's Action Spotter, just like every week, is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara, Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat-span offshore hybrid boats? You want to visit youngboats.com. Okay, let's get things rolling all the way out in Costa Rica by talking with our buddy Craig Sutton. Craig, how we doing?
I'm good, Captain Ricky, real good.
Hey, buddy, give me the update. What's going on in Costa Rica?
Opening in August 1.
August 1st.
We got Friday, yes, sir.
Man, they backed it up on you again.
It is what it is, but we're setting the roof. We're putting the beams on the roof and the sheeting on it this afternoon down at Costa. So at least we're getting some progress done.
Oh, boy, I bet those houses will be clean when the first people come down there, won't they?
Boy, you ain't kidding. All the maintenance is done. The furniture's been painted, everything.
Hey, Craig, I want to sit on that first breakfast. I've had that breakfast. I want to be there for the first one when the place reopens.
Oh, me too. Me too. I miss her breakfast so bad. That Gallo Pinto and those fresh free-range eggs, they're so much better. Oh, my gosh, they're so much better. Yeah, those buttermilk pancakes are pretty good, too.
Oh, yeah, they are. Have your guys had any time to fish?
Well, I told you the story. I thought I told you that last week on the podcast.
That's right. They did. They caught a 200-pound marlin on a 20-knot squid, right?
I think the fish was over 200. The pictures are on the blog.
I'll be
on the website too. You know, I think the fish was 250, maybe 300, but a nice fish and a pretty good fish at 20 knots with a 5/0 hook on a transparent squid.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so. Yeah, you spend all the money you want on $150 lures, and you catch one on a 5-inch squid, huh?
I know it. It's but I think the fish are so anxious, or they're so kind of unprotected when they hear a motor now. I think when they're hearing the motors now, they're kind of running to the noise. They're curious.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that, but I think you're right. You know, their world's been quiet for the last 4 months, and now all of a sudden they hear something. They're going to go check it out, aren't they?
No, absolutely. And our guys were really out there to fill their freezers out there. They're still getting paid from us, but they're not getting that huge tip money that really is like twice or 3 times what their normal salary is. So they've had to readjust their living, and their freezers are kind of barren. So they stored all those yellowfin, and every one of those guys took them home and put them in their refrigerator to eat. So.
Craig, you brought up an interesting point. I was going to talk about it tonight anyway. On your boats, what is standard for tips, would you say?
Say I tip 20% just like a client should. And I tell clients, to line your heart and your pocketbook up. Don't go without eating, or the kids without, having their shoes for school and stuff. But, those guys work hard, and 20%, that's kind of standard fare here in America. I personally tip my guys 20% every time. And if they get me a marlin, I add 100 on top of that.
I see. Okay. All right. Well, I wondered what was standard. Now I know in Costa Rica, a 20% tip is pretty standard.
Did you short them a little bit, Ricky?
Did I know? No, I think you know me better than that.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Yeah. I wouldn't think so.
I wanted to make sure I could come back. I didn't want to hear Captain Williams say, no short gringo again. No. Cap, as always, we appreciate it, and I can't wait for you guys to get reopened. Now, if you want to book a trip down there for what I consider the best time of year, August, September, into October, how can they do that?
Call me at 904-591-2161. I'm cutting some deals right now, too.
Oh, I tell you want to talk to him direct now. Call Craig, and he'll get you hooked up. Thank you, buddy.
All right, y'all have a good one.
Now let's swing over to Northeast Florida and find out what's going on in Jacksonville, where our buddy Captain David Voorhees is hanging out. David, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Ricky. How about yourself?
Good. You getting a little hot this week?
Well, I tell you, it's been a scorcher. Yesterday, there was very little breeze out there. And I tell you what, I've been telling my people, drink plenty of water, stay hydrated. And if you feel like you're getting hot, we'll go for a boat ride.
Mm-hmm.
The flounder bite is picked up, but it seems like it's mainly concentrated in the rivers, St. Mary's, the St. John's, and down in the St. Augustine inlet areas. Hearing reports of some in the back creeks and stuff like that, but they all sound like they're still catching small ones. The big ones tend to be in the river right now, the main bodies of water. The trout bite has been, not so bad. It's been pretty good on that high outgoing tide. If you can find a creek mouth that's loaded up with bait on a good high ripping tide, when the water's just pouring out, there's a real good chance if you throw swim baits up in there, some paddle-tail grubs or even some lip divers, you're going to catch some trout. Actually seen some decent ones this past week, some up there 17, 18, even 19 inchers. As far as the reds go, low tide we got in the morning, man, I would be fishing the main channel. I'd be fishing the deep water. That's what I've been doing and having a bit of success. What I'm finding is I go to an area, I might pull one or two fish out of a spot, and then I move on. I try to find more fish, and it just keeps me moving. But it seems like these fish right now, when you catch one or two out of it, they get real spooky real quick. Sometimes you can sit there and wait for 30 minutes and to get another bite. I just soon move to another bunch of fish, catch what I can out of that one, and maybe come back to that original spot maybe an hour later or 45 minutes later and pull another fish out of it or something like that.
Gotcha.
As far as back in the creeks and the flats, the fishing's been tough for the reds because of the hot water. We're seeing 85 to 87 degree water temperatures. And they're back there. That's the funny thing, Rick. We're seeing these fish. We're just having a hard time getting them to eat. We've seen reds with their backs out of the water. We've seen them feeding on the little tiny grass shrimp, but it's not like that deep water jig. And I tell you, I've been spoiled by that. And I think you're going to do better with these outgoing tides early in the morning. I think you're going to do a lot better in the deeper water this week with these hot temperatures.
I see. Okay, so you can look for the reds at first light and last light, but most of the time they're spending their time in deeper water, right?
They are, but we are seeing them in the flats, but it's just a lot tougher to get them to bite for some reason. We throw shrimp up there. We've done a lot of things. And on some days I noticed this past week, some of the flats where I've really seen a lot of reds, I go up in there and I really haven't seen a lot. And then go to another one, and sure enough, there's 5 or 6 reds up on another flat, but can't get them to eat.
That's crazy. David, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
What are your rules on your boat regarding shoes?
You know what? I don't have any rules regarding shoes. People ask me, what should I wear, whatever. To me, the worst pair of fishing shoes there are is a pair of flip-flops.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people don't realize you catch a 37-inch red up in 2 feet of water, he's going to run you all over the boat. So, you got to be ready to go to the front of the boat, run down the gunnels to the back of the boat. So, you got to be light on your feet. I have one rule on my boat, and it's a rule I've always had, and there's no exceptions to this rule. There's only 2 places for a rod. It's either going to be in your hand or in a rod holder.
Yeah.
And there are no exceptions to this rule.
That's a great rule. I like that one a lot. I sure do. And David, to your subject, yesterday, what got me thinking about yesterday's Kingbuster tournament, we were at weigh-in. Sure enough, here came rescue with a boat flying to the dock. Kid fishing in flip-flops, and the last kingfish of the day laid his foot wide open, tendons exposed. Just a nasty, nasty, nasty mess. I can't urge people enough to cover their feet when they're fishing.
And, up here, Ricky, we've got the oysters. If you've ever been in a situation, you run into an issue, and you have to get out of the boat, and it's happened to me a couple of times, and you do not want to accidentally hop out on a bed of oysters and a pair of flip-flops.
Yep, that's for sure, David. That's great advice. Hey, let me tell you about offshore. The mangrove snapper population out in 120 feet is as good as I've ever seen it. And there are some big fish. There have been some 14-pound mangrove snapper brought in lately. And I get tickled with this great job I've got going around the state every week because I listen to guys on the West Coast and said, oh, the mangroves are huge this week. They're catching 3-4 pounders, offshore. And I think to myself, yeah, that'd be good bait for our mangroves in Jacksonville. We are blessed with some monsters, and there are a lot of them this week. The trolling has been great for kingfish, not much else, although Steve Grant yesterday, fishing with Captain Frank, finding 113-pound wahoo. Is that a good one?
Wow.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
That's incredible.
Been a handful of cobia, a handful of mahi, but lots of kings. Don Dingman had 148 kids in his tournament, and I know he weighed at least 125 kids fish because I had one grandson in 17th place with a 20-pounder and one grandson in 116th place with a 7-pounder. So there was a pile of kingfish caught by the juniors yesterday.
That's good news, Rick. Were they in close, Rick, or
Yes.
did they see
They're
a majority
everywhere.
of them out deep?
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
They're out deep. They're on the beach. They're everywhere, and I'm so thankful to see them. Glad to see them overall fishing right now. Very good in Northeast Florida. We look forward to talking with you next week, Cap.
All right, tight lines, Rick.
Thank you, David. Now we're going to head south to my favorite place in Florida to catch sailfish, that's for sure, Stuart, Florida, and check in with our buddy John Earhart. John, how are you?
Doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great, buddy. How's everything on the chaos and the mayhem?
Gotta tell you, it's pretty good, especially if you like sail fishing right now in Stuart, Florida. It's pretty close to epic fishing right now, I'll say that.
John, I got bad news in that regard. I'm not going to be able to make it to Stuart until, the sun comes up. That's about when.
I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we find a bunch of sails tomorrow. Yesterday was pretty phenomenal sail fishing. A lot of boats were catching 6 to 9 sailfish apiece. So, there's definitely a big body of fish around. Most of this action is 90 to 120 feet. Yesterday afternoon, I did see some sailfish in 50 feet of water, but anywhere from 40 feet out to about 180 feet right now, you're going to be hard-pressed not to run across the sailfish.
Wow.
Live bait fishing is going to be the way to go. Slow trolling, fishing a kite if there's enough wind. And, you could even troll ballyhoo, but I would advise against it during this time of the year as these sailfish are coming in closer to shore looking for these larger schools of pilchards, greenies, threadfins, sardines, and such. So, if you're fishing live bait in 60 to 180 feet right now, I would expect to catch a lot of sailfish, bonita, kingfish, a few mahis, and some nice blackfin tunas. So if you want to go offshore fishing, you like calm weather, and you don't mind the heat, now is the absolute best time to do it in Stuart. That's for sure.
Hey, John, let me ask you a question. You mentioned all those live baits. What's your favorite live bait this time of year for sailfish?
My absolute favorite live bait would be a greenie or a threadfin this time of year. If I can find a goggle eye, that would be number one. But as far as usability, easiness to catch, and as far as a good bait that everything wants, the greenie is going to be the best bet. It's a larger bait. It really kicks hard in the water, and the sailfish just absolutely love those greenies. I'll use a pilchard if I have to, but if you ask me what I want when I'm going sail fishing, I want to have greenies in my live well.
Now, a greenie and a threadfin are essentially the same thing, right?
They're essentially the same thing. You'll just notice one of them will have a long dorsal fin.
Right.
They look almost identical. One just has a long dorsal fin.
Okay. So you would rank them above a sardine?
Absolutely.
That's
You're
interesting.
going to have a bigger presence in the water.
Sure is.
It's a larger bodied bait fish.
Sure is. Well, that's outstanding. What else is biting, John?
Inshore fishing right now, it's been pretty spectacular right along the beach. We got a lot of those minnows anywhere from 50 to 100 yards off the beach. A lot of big tarpon, jack crevalles, bonitas, kingfish, even some big snook. This week, the tarpon fishing has really, really been good right off the beaches. Most of these fish are 60 to 90 pounds. You can get them both on artificial and live bait, fishing right around the edges of these large glass minnow schools. Try and be courteous of other boaters and beach fishermen, but there's plenty of fish to go around, that's for sure.
Well, I tell you what, you hit on something there. It is tough to find courtesy and etiquette on the water anymore, isn't it?
Yeah, what was it, 2 or 3 days ago, I pulled up, there was 3 boats fishing one school of minnows, and there was probably about 20 tarpon in these minnows. So I was kind of like the last guy to get there, so I stayed on the end. The other 2 boats hooked up, and then I pulled into the front, and then they were coming back as they had jumped off their fish. and I hooked the tarpon right in between both the boats, and I just gracefully backed between both of them, got out away from the minnow school so that they could keep fishing and I could keep fighting my fish without having any accidents or, people getting mad at me. So you definitely want to be courteous and just kind of pay attention to your surroundings when we're fishing environments like that.
Perfect. Situational awareness. Be aware of what's going on around you. I tell you what, I might have a hard time sleeping tonight, John Earhart. I'm going to be out sail fishing in the same region as you tomorrow. We're going to be talking back and forth. We'll be releasing so many fish, we'll keep the phone lines hopping.
Man, I hope we get to fly some flags tomorrow.
I'm with you. I got some extras if you need to borrow some on the way home.
All right, I'll call you if I need some laundry.
I'll do the same thing. Thank you, Cap.
I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Appreciate it, John. Thank you so much. Let's take off to Miami and see what the mayor of South Beach is up to, Captain Alan Sherman. Alan, are you with us?
I am with you, Rick.
Tell me about your inshore fishing down there right now.
The waters here are extremely hot.
Mm-hmm.
We have daily temperatures in the 90s here, mostly steady 92s. And when that happens, because our bays are so shallow, the fishery just shuts down. There are some fish that do feed in that kind of weather. Those are bonefish and permit. And those fish have been active down in South Biscayne Bay. One individual catch that was made last week by, one of Captain Mo Estevez's clients, his name was Alex. He had a 14-pound bonefish.
Wow.
And that was caught on the west side of South Bay. So
wow.
that is a giant. I know that he said it was his personal best. So those fish have been tailing in the early mornings and late afternoons. They kind of, go deep or hang out in the muddier water in the afternoons when it's hot. But if you're on the water first light and back on the water like an hour or so before the sun sets, you've got two opportunities to do well on these bonefish. And they're eating large live shrimp or hookup lure, bonefish jigs, and flies. And then, of course, there's barracudas and sharks and a few jacks mixed in on those flats as well. But there hasn't been much else. The sea trout fishing's really slow. The snapper fishing in the bay has been slow as well. That's what's happening on the inside. Offshore, you start on the beaches. There's been a lot of snook for catch and release, and they're staging for their spawning season. So if you can find it, from the fishing piers near the surf or an area of the beach where they allow surf fishing, these guys are doing well on large snook, anywhere from 10 to 20 pounders, a few bigger ones. And those fish are also in the ocean inlets. They're eating artificials, they're eating live pilchards or mullet. Live bait fish has been a big problem down here for some time. So you got to work at it to get those fish. But moving offshore, I know you guys were talking about sailfish, but the water temperatures, even offshore for us, we only have to go 2 or 3 miles out to get to over 100 feet of water. So our waters are pretty hot still. Even there, it just doesn't usually happen until, late July, August, September. The guys are finding sailfish out where they usually fish for dolphin. And the dolphin have been really scattered, so as the sailfish have been too. So if they're fishing closer in, they're fishing for kingfish and bonitas and black-fin tunas and a few wahoo, and then occasional sailfish. And that fishery has been very good in the early mornings and late afternoon. Sometimes you have to get the baits kind of deep to get the hits. And because there isn't a lot of bait fish around, the guys are they're able to catch some ballyhoo, chum up some ballyhoo and net them, and they're using live ballyhoo. Cigar minnows have been around in some areas, and a few large Spanish sardines, but horse pilchards and even the threadfin herring have been very difficult to come by. So there is some action on the reefs if you can get the right bait. If you can't find bait, you can buy fresh ballyhoo or Spanish sardines. They sell in a 5-pound box, and you can weight them a little bit, half ounce to an ounce, and get them a little deeper, and those are getting some of those fish as well. Now, I mentioned the dolphin offshore. They're very scattered. We have just loads and loads of sargasso weed lines and big mats of grass and just no fish. Very scattered. But the one upside to all of that, there's been quite a few blue marlin in the area.
Come on.
One of the charter boats caught one the other day. I'm not sure how we caught it. I saw the video of them fighting it, and they got at the boat side and released it. But a lot of people are seeing them. They're coming up and trying to grab their dolphin, because the dolphin aren't big. They're small schoolies, and that's a perfect size for, 100, 150-pound blue marlin. So that's something that, you could go out there and target. It's been plenty calm enough, and it's going to stay that way throughout the weekend. So, it's no problem getting offshore.
Fantastic. Hey, Alan, those are great reports, and I appreciate it. I've got a quick question for you. We've been trying to help people that are about to book charters. What's the rule on your boat regarding alcohol?
So I don't want to say I won't allow it. Hard alcohol is definitely out.
Right.
But I do allow beer on board, and I watch the people, I have a small boat. If you start to drink too much, the first thing that happens, especially with it being as hot as it is, you get a little lightheaded. You start doing things that you wouldn't do if you weren't drinking. So, a couple of beers per person, I don't see that as a problem.
I'm with you, Cap. That's probably pretty standard for most charter boats. I don't think most captains object to it as long as it doesn't get out of hand. If it gets out of hand on my boat, we will be at the dock in a hurry, I promise you.
I got to add one part of the fishing report because this is the one fishery that is hot right now, and that is the nighttime mangrove snapper fishing on the reefs.
Aha.
Anybody can do it if you got a boat or you go out on a party boat, but that fishery is very good.
Nighttime is the right time for catching mangrove snapper. Thank you. We appreciate it very much. We'll talk with you next week.
Looking forward to it.
Let's check in with Captain Nick Stancic from the Broad-Minded in Bud and Mary's Marina and see what's going on. Nick, are you with us?
How you doing?
I'm doing excellent, buddy. Any fishing going on down there?
The keys have been slammed. It's been busy. I fished a few trips last week, and we got some more coming up this week.
It's funny. I had a friend of mine say, well, the keys must still be closed because I had to drive down there, and everywhere I looked, there was no vacancy, no vacancy. I'm sure they must be closed. And I said, no, they are not closed. Everybody that can fit in there is already there.
They're down here. There has been some traffic, so the people are here, and everything seems to be okay. So we'll keep our fingers crossed it stays that way.
How's your fishing going?
Decent. The swordfish bite hasn't been red hot by any means, but I fished 3 trips the past week, and one day we missed one. We caught some blackfin tunas and a couple of mahi that day, make up for it. The next day, caught one. We just did 2. Actually, we just did 1 drop. We caught one first thing in the morning. A decent fish, 157 pounds.
Good deal.
And we had about 15 or 18 schoolie dolphin. And we had a towel fish and a snowy. Then we fished one more day, and we caught about a 90-pound sword and then a few towel fish. So decent. And on the dock, I've seen a lot of mahi the past week. Not too many big ones, mostly schoolies, but most of the boats have had 20 to 25 fish on average. A few boats had 30 to 40. And the redfish boat today, the charter boat redfish, he had a white marlin, so that was a nice surprise to see.
How about that? Nick, I tell you what, if you've got snowy grouper, tilefish, swordfish, and mahi, I think I'm coming to your house for dinner.
Well, Jim and Caroline took it all back to Palm Beach to go to their house. Yeah, they're eating good. They got a few good meals, no doubt.
That's a pretty good menu right there. Now, what are you hearing from the backcountry guys? Anything?
My brother fished today, and he had a few really big snook. I think probably the biggest snook I've ever actually seen. The pictures I've caught down here, to be honest with you.
Wow.
I think he had 3 fish over 20 pounds, and one was probably 25 pounds.
Good fish.
It's absolutely, something that you expect to see up there further on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
But he had 3 huge snook and some other smaller medium ones. They're still catching a few tarpon the last few trips, not red hot. A good snook bite. I know the other guys have been catching snook and then some reds and trout too. So it's been decent. The weather looks really calm the next few days, so we'll see what happens with that.
Gotcha. Now, are you going to be back on the swordfish tomorrow?
Yeah, I got 4 more days coming up. So the next 4 days I'll be fishing, and it's been about 1 bite per trip it seems. So if you get it and catch it, it's good. If you miss it, it's tough.
Yeah, but if you get it, it might well be a 500-600 pound fish. So
you never know. Tomorrow could be the day.
Yep, that's right. Great fish require a lot of patience sometimes. Hey, Nick, let me ask you a question. You've got so many boats running out of there and running such a successful charter business. We're trying to help people that are chartering boats for the first time. What do you consider an acceptable tip for good service?
We get anywhere from 15 to 20% is great, but there's times we don't get tipped, and then there's times we get tipped well over that. I would really say it depends on the service, though. So if you feel like the crew is friendly and nice and outgoing and shows you a good time and puts forth the effort, I definitely appreciate the tip. And if you don't really think that they were too entertaining and didn't put in too much effort, I think the tip would reflect that. So
you can feel the difference. I tell you what, there are some crews that work a lot harder than others. Can't control the fish, can't control whether or not they're going to bite, but you can certainly control the level of effort that you put out. Nick, that's just the answer I was looking for. Get back on your swordfish streak and tell me we can talk to you next week.
Give me a call, Rick. We'll talk to you then.
You got it. Thank you, Nick. Tell you what, if you want room down there for lobster season, you better already have it. Let's check in with 10,000 Islands and our buddy Steve Dahl and see how he's doing. Steve, are you with us?
I am. How you doing today?
Steve, even Nick Stanczyk some days doesn't catch swordfish.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. It's fake news.
The boy's good. There's no doubt. The boy is good. Tell me what's going on in 10,000 Islands.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's everybody always asks, hey, Steve, what do you do on your days off? And aside from everyday life stuff, cutting the lawn and doing all that fun jazz, I like to fish. And today I had a day off, and so did another captain in the area. It's Captain Rob Walzak, pretty well known, 25 plus years down there. And we went out of Chokoloskee today. We got a banker's hours start today at 9 o'clock. Chase the outgoing tide the rest of the day, and I got to tell you what, we just had a ball, just trying different stuff. Didn't use a single piece of live bait. Everything was on artificials. Pretty easy fishing. Lots of paddle tails, bait fish hues, focused on points. And that was really it. The deeper, in the morning, the tide was high, and the fish are just going to progressively pull away from the bank. And so we fished all these points. By the end of the afternoon, we were fishing outside points that extend, 20 feet out past the point. So it's a classic follow the tide type of pattern. And the falling tide has been pretty consistent the last couple of weeks. So we wanted to kind of try to see, how many points we could probably get in. And we kind of made a milk run all the way from Chokoloskee all the way to Wasman's River. That's a pretty long run. We probably fished 50 different spots today, and we caught fish nearly at all of them, redfish and snook, all mixed in. And no giants, but the numbers. There's tons of 18 to 25-inch snook right now just stacked up and, off these points. So if you're going out this week, take a look at the tide tables. Been a little, lucky with the rain. The problem is the heat. Just got to stay hydrated, keep moving. That's kind of the fun part of running these points is you can kind of fire up the big motor and jump to another point, get some air conditioning, if you will, going in the boat. It's kind of fun fishing,
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to catch multiple fish at each point, Rick. So I had a fun day. I don't really get to do that a lot, and I always like to fish with other captains too because, I always have the belief you can learn something from anybody, and it's neat to see someone else in our craft, their approach to things, and vice versa.
I tell you what, Steve, and you said a mouthful there about learning from other guys. I decided that I wanted to learn how to be a better kite fisherman. So I put together a party of myself and 3 other guys, and because I knew that he would feel pressured to do something for me, and I didn't want that, I booked through one of my buddies' names a charter with Ray Rocher, who is a great friend, but he is a world-class kite fisherman. And I just wanted to sit on the bridge and watch. And holy smokes, I mean, you want to learn how to do something? You want to learn how to catch snook in Chokoloskee? Book Steve Dahl for a day, okay? Don't knock yourself out trying to learn it. Get somebody that knows more than you do. It ain't hard.
No, it really is. And on the flip side, I learn a lot from customers, too. There's some outlandish stuff. Don't get me wrong. You hear about a lot of stuff, and we're fortunate enough to do something for a living that we're probably a lot more experienced than who we take fishing, but got to keep an open ear. I mean, there's some things over the years I've heard from freshwater anglers that something they're using walleye fishing up in Minnesota that, boy, why wouldn't that work here? One thing, I have a lot of ties to the West Coast through the fishing tackle industry, and I've got guys who drop shot for bass in deep gin clear bass lakes out west, and why can't that work here? So I tried that,
Sure.
and it works. It's a great thing to use on the grass flats. It keeps your weights on the bottom and your baits above the grass. So little things like that. It's always fun to experiment. I think we all get tied into the tried and trues and what caught them year after year after year, but sometimes finding another mousetrap is the fun part of it.
Let's reverse that for a minute. Up in the Northeast, the tuna fishermen started fishing daisy chains for giant tuna. Well, before you know it, the guys down here are finding out that they work on sailfish, okay? And the guys up in the Northeast started pulling umbrella rigs for stripers and bluefish and all that kind of stuff. Well, now the hottest thing on the Bass Trail is that Arkansas rig, which is right? Isn't that just the same thing for bass
It is.
that they've been using for tuna and bluefish?
Yeah. So, Paul Elias, probably about 5 years ago, had a man-made umbrella rig. Weighed in 110 pounds of bass in 4 days and just lapped the field. I think he won by like 20 pounds that tournament. $100,000 he wins. And everybody and their brother made what we know is an umbrella rig for trolling.
Right.
And all the saltwater guys are laughing, going, that's been around for years.
Where have you been for the last 50 years?
Where have you been? And boy, they're still selling. It's unbelievable. But yeah, I guess in general we get so caught up in our own little world. Captain Rick Riles, as innovative as you are, you have your tried and true stuff that you can do it. If you need to produce fish.
But by 8:30 tomorrow morning, if I haven't caught a sailfish, I'll be going, you really don't know what you're doing. You really, we all do that. I mean, when you're having a tough go of it, don't you think, well, you really never were any good. You just,
Wow. This is, I use this a lot on the boat. And I think this is one of the things we love about, what we do is you can go from zero to hero or hero to zero just as fast.
Oh, yes.
And 2 questions on a boat. How deep are we fishing?
Yeah.
And how was the bite yesterday?
Right. Yeah. You're exactly right.
And my answer to the second one is yesterday was yesterday, today is today.
Yep.
Fishing's a humbling game. And I think that's one of the reasons we love it so much is we're still trying to figure them out after all these years.
Every time we figure them out, they change the rules. I can't thank you enough. We'll look forward to talking with you next week if that's okay.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Rick.
Steve's Report, of course, is brought to you each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara, Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrid boats? You need to check out youngboats.com.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalu marine engine oils.
What?
Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalu full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalu marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is a mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to its name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with Menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to you second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master Chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. Now let's move around to Southwest Florida and find out what's happening with Snook Stamp Charters and Captain Greg Stamper. Greg, are you with us?
I'm with you, Rick, loud and clear.
Good to hear, my boy. Tell me what's going on in Southwest Florida.
All right. Well, we'll start off with some stuff that you're familiar with because for us, it's a little bit different to see these things. All this red snapper stuff has gotten a lot of these guys that are going way offshore out further than they normally go.
Right.
And this week, we got to see dolphin come in, which you guys would laugh and call peanuts. But I'm not going to go there right now. We've seen a couple wahoo hit the deck.
That'll work.
Which is totally crazy for us because, that's pretty far for those guys. I did ask them, Rick, how deep they went. And they wouldn't tell me. So, I'm guessing they were out there 140, 150, 160, that ballpark. And, of course, they've been doing very well on the red grouper, gag groupers,
and a ton of mangrove snappers. In fact, tonight's probably the first time I've ever seen all the guys who like to do the nighttime snapper fishing all going out on the same day.
That is excellent. Hey, you mentioned we get a lot more wahoo over here on the East Coast than you guys do. A friend of mine got a decent one yesterday, Greg.
Oh, gosh.
He was, I guess you'd have to call him a medium to a large medium.
What was he, like 80 pounds?
No, he's 113.
Oh, my God.
How about that?
All right, well, that's one of those fish that I can respect any size they are because they're delicious. Unfortunately for us, if you lived here and you love the wahoo fish, you're doing like a 50, 60-mile one-way trip to go after those suckers.
All right, I want you to explain something to me.
Go.
You've caught quite a few mangrove snapper in your life, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Does a 15-inch mangrove snapper taste better than a 12-pound mangrove snapper?
Oh, I'd take the small one in a heartbeat.
Okay. Does a little snook taste better than a great big snook?
I don't eat snook. I don't kill them, but I'll take something under 30 inches.
Okay. All right. Why does a 10-pound wahoo taste like a 100-pound wahoo?
You know what? I have no idea, but I don't care. If there's two wahoo sitting on that deck and you want the small one, I'll take the big one home.
See, isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Same thing with tuna. You give me a 5-pound tuna or a 40-pound tuna, I'll take the 40.
Funny you mentioned tuna because they are catching blackfin tunas out there as well still. I did see some fish that were probably close to 20 pounds this week, which is good for us. If I move you inshore a little bit, I know there's something that's going to get your attention. I've seen several cobia this week coming into our docks. I've seen a lot of permit being caught, a few of them coming back to the station for a couple of people who wanted to eat a couple of them. And I've seen a lot of fish in the ballpark of anywhere from a mile from the beach out to maybe 4 or 5 miles myself and with others called tarpon that are still roaming full speed. They're probably 100 pounds, 120 pounds going to be your average one. But here's the one thing I'll talk about this week because we saw it about a month and a half, 2 months ago. The snook are spawning again, okay? These big girls and stuff, they're getting ready to go crazy and go out there and make more snook for us. And if you're fishing the beaches along like Sanibel, Captiva, all the way Fort Myers Beach, south of us, if you're not near a pass, you're probably not going to see too many snook this next week or so because they're getting ready to spawn out. And they're all getting together in these passes ready to go out there and make ourselves a whole bunch of snook in the future.
That's fantastic. I tell you what, is it common for them to spawn more than once this time of year?
Yeah, it was about maybe almost a month and a half, 2 months ago. I was fishing near a pass, and this is how you know. So you'll see a bunch of big fish, or if you're fortunate enough to be able to drive over a bridge when it's pitch dark, dark at like 5 in the morning, like I do often. And I always stop on a bridge just to look over and see what the bait looks like. And all of a sudden, one night you'll go over that same bridge and you'll be like, "There's 100 snook there."
How about
They're
that?
getting ready to spawn out. So this happened about a month and a half, 2 months ago in the same area that I was fishing earlier, and we couldn't get a single fish to eat because it was daytime, and I could see the big fish down there. And so they're getting ready to go through another spawn. So yeah, they're probably on their second or third. And July would be the end of it. So this is the big boom right now.
I had my grandson offshore of Stewart the other day, and he's young, and we came up on a couple of turtles. And I said, "Parker, you want to know what kind of turtles those are?" He said, "What?" I said, "Those are extremely happy turtles is what those are." So if I'm lying, I'm dying. This morning he comes running in the house. He says, "Grandpa, in the driveway there's a couple of extremely happy lizards."
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's what he knows about that. He knows when they're on top of each other, they're extremely happy. All right, Cap, we better not go down the road any further with this subject. As always, we appreciate it so much. Please tell me we can check on you next week, Greg.
You got it, Rick.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you then. Tight lines. Now, let's slide up the coast of Florida a little bit and stop in and check with our buddy Ray Markham. Ray, how are you?
It's hot.
Yes, that would be correct.
It's hot over here in West Central, buddy.
Yep. I'm already thinking about fishing more, Ray. I'm thinking about fishing 6:30 to 10 and 4:30 to dark.
That's too late and too early. 9 o'clock a.m. is about the cutoff over here. I mean, when you're sweating when you walk out the door at 5 o'clock in the morning, you know, and it doesn't get any better from there.
Yeah.
But I guess the heat isn't really affecting a lot of the different species of fish that are running around here in the water. There's lots of stuff going on here right now. If I had to pick just one species, I would say guys that are probably looking to do some mangrove snapper fishing this month and next month, I really do believe are going to be banner months for mangrove snapper. We're getting quite a few mangoes up inside Tampa Bay, you know, averaging anywhere from 1 pound to 3 pounds. They're not your offshore fish sizes, but they're nice fish. Guys that are doing the long distance trips, 100 to 150 and farther depths, they're looking at mangoes that are, you know, 7 to 8 pounds, 9 pounds, just lots of them. And if you really want to do the best at it, next Monday night, I do believe is Sunday night. Well, our full moon's coming up this coming week. Let me see here. I do believe it is on the 8th. No, I lied. The 5th. So, yeah, the evening bite is going to be horrendous, I'm sure, if we have decent weather.
Okay, but, so mangrove snapper fishing's good. Are the snook biting at all?
Snook has been crazy. Yeah, I mean, of the inshore fish, that is probably the absolute craziest. Guys are catching them on live bait, dead bait, artificial bait, just about every way you could possibly think. And just a strange kind of, not really strange kind of catch for this time of year, but dolphin. Mahi coming in closer to shore in several different areas being reported over the last week. Clearwater is as shallow as 30 feet of water and as deep as 120. And off of Sarasota, anywhere from 70 to 150. Something new that's kind of cool that is going in, or is in the water as of today is a brand new artificial reef. It's the Sean Gucken Memorial Reef off of kind of the middle north end of Manatee County. It's 5 miles offshore, roughly 16 feet of water. This is brought to you courtesy of CCA and Yamaha. We've been working on this for the last couple of years to help get another reef. And with Sean Gucken, who was a Pinellas County CCA member and actual president of the chapter there for some time, he did a whole lot for this area as far as conservation is concerned. And they finally managed to get another reef out there. But this one's going to be close enough that on decent days, guys in the flats boats can run out, probably pick up some permit, I'm thinking, because permit are showing up on nearshore artificial reefs. And this time of year is awesome for it. Getting a few mangrove snapper, like I said before, and also mackerel are showing up inside the bay.
Are the kingfish biting?
Not so well. I'm still talking to a few guys that are catching them on the real deep wrecks. The one report I did get from some guys that are doing some diving, they say there's a thermocline that starts at around 90 to 100 feet, and it drops about 10 degrees in temperature.
Wow.
Water temperature on the bottom, where this thermocline is, drops from 85 to 75 degrees. So guys, I think that are looking for a change and fish that like that kind of thing, I think if they hit that thermocline right on the edge, above, below, or beside, and they're going to do real well with all kinds of different fish.
Gotcha. Okay, there ain't nothing wrong with that. Ray, have you done any night fishing yet?
I don't really do night trips as far as charters are concerned. I just don't care for the liability issue. I do get out and fish some at night. I really like doing some freshwater fishing at night. You can't get in too much trouble in a lake other than the fact that there's a heck of a lot of alligators around. But when you see those red beady eyes, you know,
oh yeah,
I can't seem to go the other way. Topwaters are real interesting at night when you got those out there.
Ray, I cut my teeth on a topwater jitterbug at night, and about 1:30, maybe 1:45, you've thrown that jitterbug about 1,000 casts, and you know, you're almost asleep, and that lure's going all the way back. And then it gets about 3 feet from the tip of your rod, and boom! I mean, that's one of the most fun things in fishing, isn't it?
Fred Arbogast would be proud of you, buddy.
Yeah, he would. Yeah, I sound just like one, don't I?
Just one real quick mention. CCA Star is starting the 1st of July.
Right.
If you aren't registered already, all kinds of prizes up for grabs. There's everything under the sun, from boats, motors, trailers to college educations, and a whole heck of a lot more. So go check that out. It's definitely something worthwhile.
Ray, I'm glad you mentioned that. Florida Sportsman Radio Network is actually the sponsor of one of those youth scholarships. And,
awesome.
And I'm thrilled about that. And, it's funny. We had Lisa Fitzgerald on the show Saturday. And guess what? She let a redfish go the other day with a tag in it, of course, in preparation for the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
It was at large about 68 minutes.
What?
Yep.
What they do? Starve it before they put him back in the water?
I don't know. They got recaptured an hour later. Of course, it didn't do him any good. The tournament hadn't started, and the kid wasn't registered. But I'll bet you he is now.
But I also wonder, though, I mean, I don't know what the new rules are for this year yet, because I'm getting ready to register myself. And for anybody who also wants to register at ccaflstar.com, and that will take you right to the registration page. But anyway, I'm just wondering, because I know fish that were released last year and the year before that were tagged and possibly were not caught. If an angler is registered in the current tournament and they catch one of the old ones, they can get $1,000 gift package from CCA. So there's all kinds of stuff, even stuff that's not a current tag,
That's correct.
Cool.
They've got some fantastic, I think their trash division. They've got some fantastic divisions. Ray, thank you so much. Please tell me we can talk to you next week.
Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you then. Captain Ray Markham with the West Central Report. We're going to start swinging out into the Big Bend a little bit. That's where we'll find the mayor of Homosassa. We couldn't have a report without William Toney. How we doing, sir?
Doing good. If we could get just a little bit of rain here, would be really good for the whole Big Bend area. But, you mentioned mahi, and there were a few little chicken dolphin caught off of Crystal River here this past week.
Isn't that funny? They've been all over the West Coast. Not big ones and not many, but there's been a few just about everywhere.
That's right. It's kind of rarity for our area, but it's kind of cool to see.
Oh, it's way cool to see. There's no doubt about it. Tell me what else is going on in the Big Bend area.
All right, now the inshore action right now, we're fixing to let loose here on July 1st with our scalloping here on the Big Bend. Now, I do know we have kind of a stressed situation. I've heard tales all across the board where the scallops are, where they're not and everything, saying the shrimpers are getting them out in 12, 14 foot of water. A couple people found 20 at one spot in 3 feet. Then someone found one from 20 miles to 0 miles, just looking all over the board. Best thing to do for scalloping in the Citrus County area. Now, I can't attest what's happening up in Steenahatchee, but I will say we're probably going to be a little bit slower than years before. So the good thing is, though, get out there, have a good time, be safe. It's very hot. We're going to look at kind of elevated tides coming up around the full moon this coming weekend around July 4th. So the water will be deeper. Hopefully we get those afternoon outgoing tides. Water's real calm. You'll be able to see it. What I like to tell people when they're scalloping, it's almost best when the tide is at a stand. And when the tide comes to a stand, all the grass on the bottom will just stand straight up. And at any angle that you're looking at while you're snorkeling, you can see down in there. Now, if you got moving tides going either in or out, it's going to bend the grass out toward the west or bend the grass out toward the east. Swim into that tide so you can look underneath it, and that way you'll see more scallops.
I like that idea. I never thought of that.
Yep, it's a little bit, just look at it as it bends with the water. So angling your body and your mask and everything, swimming into the current and being able to look under it will help you find some more. Now, the inshore bite right now, redfish has been very good, getting a lot of nice keeper slot-sized reds, using live shrimp. Now, the live shrimp, if you're on a good school and you find mullet that are jumping, live shrimp will work very well. Now, if you're searching for it, I suggest getting some live pinfish. They'll last a little bit longer than the live shrimp. Now, for a search bait, the Gold Spoon, the Johnson Gold Spoon, 1/4 ounce, will definitely get you into the fish. The only thing you'll have to fight will be a lot of floating grass. But as long as you can get a 4 to about 10-foot type of retrieve right off the edge of that mangrove edge, that's where those fish will be laying on the high tide. Get a few trout down along the bars in Chassahuisca, up there toward the Barge Canal and Crist River on those deep drops that are left over from the spoil banks. Anywhere there's kelp on the end of it, that's where you'll find the trout.
Excellent. That sounds like an outstanding report. I tell you what, I just looked, and I have got you booked for a charter on the second day of scallop season, July the 2nd.
Absolutely, yep.
And my grandsons will be having a heated competition over who finds the most scallops. I don't want the score to be 1-0, William.
I've been known to get in the water, too, and I'm pretty competitive. And I don't have to be the guy. You know, I'm going to be the referee out there.
Well, good luck between those two. I can tell you right now, I've been trying to referee those two for 10 years. It hadn't helped me a bit. I can't wait. I can't wait to spend it. And if you've never been scalloping, folks, it is more fun than a barrel of monkeys. I mean, it is just, it's a hoot.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, a lot of times I sat out there and I got in today from today's charter, and there was a lot of moments in my mind. I was like, you know what? If I was in the water, it just would be a lot cooler. Our water temperature right now is 88 to 90 degrees. And another good thing, if you're here on the Big Bend area, some of our rivers have springs on them. So after out there in, scalloping in that 90-degree water, then jump in that 72-degree temperature in that fresh water and cool yourself off from the warm air is a pretty good treat.
I like the sound of that. I tell you what, it may not be high tide if I'm in the boat, but if I jump in the water, it's going to be high tide all through Homosassa. I promise you that. Cap, thanks so much for a great report, and I look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
And looking forward to myself, Rick. Thank you, bud. We'll see you
William.
then.
See you Thursday. Let's move on out into Northwest Florida and talk with Captain Kevin Lanier of KC Sport Fishing. What's going on, Cap?
Captain Rick, there's red snapper everywhere.
That ain't bad. That ain't bad.
Nope, not bad at all. I can say that fishing is about as good as I've ever seen.
Wow, that is saying something. What are you catching besides red snapper?
We had a 100-pound grouper day the other day and
Come
6
on.
fish. We got 4 more yesterday. The average weight on those grouper were about 20 pounds.
So fish.
That was a great day. Yeah.
Good fish. Yeah. Now, are you picking your limit of vermilion while you're out there? You're not even bothering with them.
We're getting them incidentally because we keep that chicken rig down all the time to see what we've got going on. And we've got some really big vermilions. Not too many, 4 or 5 a trip. It just kind of depends on how the trip's going. And some days they're more active than others. But, our main target's the grouper and red snapper. We're using big live bait, so that's where our focus is.
Now, how far are you having to run to get those fish?
The quality fish we're getting in it between probably 30 and 45 miles.
I see. Well, that's not bad. That's an easy run for that World Cat, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we can do that, and we can do that 4 miles an hour and a half, so that's not bad at all.
Sweet.
Sometimes I'll tell my customers, you're willing to ride a little bit longer, we'll get some quality fish, and it seems to work out that way.
Oh, yeah. I'm a big believer in do what the captain thinks the best thing to do is on that day. Forget your preferences, right?
Oh, absolutely. Some days my gut feeling just tells me, run an extra 15 minutes today, going out and coming back, and it usually pays off. Rarely have I been disappointed during the snapper season.
That's right. I think that's an outstanding piece of advice. Kevin, have you heard anything from inshore at all?
Inshore triple tail are fantastic around the Mexico Beach area. No. We've got some guys that are specialized in triple tail fishing, and I just saw my buddy's post today, Captain Mitch Coleman here in Mexico Beach. They got 3 nice triple tail.
Man, I do love me some triple tail.
I mean, I agree with you. There's not much better to eat out there.
And they're a lot of fun to catch, and they're sight fishing. I mean, they got a lot going for them.
Yep. I mean, we got a lot of structure around the area. Mexico Beach Artificial Reef Association, we got over 350 reefs within 20 miles of Mexico Beach, all the way from 20 feet of water out to, 100 feet of water. So there's a lot of structure around here in shallow water to fish those fish for.
You know, that's one thing that we should be thankful for that we don't give enough credence to. Over the last 50 years, and yes, I've been at this for a little over 50 years, we really have enhanced a lot of the bottom structure, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, out here where we're at, it was a desert. There was nothing. And that organization has brought life and great fishing to our area because of those artificial reefs.
Well said. Well said. Hey, look, I appreciate the heck out of it. Now, you can snapper fish until when?
July 31st.
Have you got any open days before then?
They're getting thin.
I'll
so
bet.
you guys want to come over from the left coast over there, or that other coast of Florida, and come over here and do some red snapper fishing, y'all give me a call. And it'll drive you nuts if you go on my website or Facebook page, KC Sport Fishing, because there are some big fish out there.
There are some dandy grouper that met their last on that new World Cat, hadn't there?
I tell you what, I've been so happy with that World Cat and some other things. Sometime when we've got a little more time, I'll cover some of the enhancements that we made, and it's been unbelievable. It's been game-changing for me.
No, we don't ever have time for you to do that, Kevin. You'd have to show me.
All right. Well, you come over, and I'll show you, man.
You can't tell me, Kevin. You got to show me. Thank you, Cap. We appreciate you so much.
All right. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye-bye, Kevin. Now, let's head out into lower Alabama in the Panhandle and check in with Captain Tyler Massey. Tyler, how are you?
Oh, we're doing good, Rick.
Good, good. Tell me about fishing in the Panhandle. How is it?
Oh, we've been wide open over here, fishing every single day. There's lots of catching going on, too. We're on our offshore trips, we're catching our red snapper, of course. They haven't slowed down much. We've been catching those on a lot of public stuff, live bottom, which is our coral heads, rocks and that kind of stuff. So that's been really good fishing. We've been catching vermilion snappers, king mackerels, almaco jacks, just big varieties every single day.
That sounds like an outstanding offshore report. Goodness.
It's been really good.
Now, you can snapper fish, remind me, for how much longer?
Till August 2nd.
Okay, so you got a while yet.
Oh, yeah, we're halfway through.
Oh, outstanding. I think it'll hold up. Now, I know you've got some secret rocks that you're holding back for the last couple of weeks when the pressure gets tight, right?
Oh, yeah, we got all kinds of stuff. But I just been really fishing. We call it public stuff. It's nothing special. Most people have it. You just have to maybe fish it a little different sometimes. Drop your leader size down, fish higher up in the water column, and it's been getting the job done. So we've been doing good with that.
Tyler, that's you hit a home run there with that suggestion. I have learned in heavily pressured areas on the East Coast, I will go as light as a 30 to 40 pound leader and a quarter ounce sinker and let a half a cigar minnow just sink naturally. You break off a lot of fish, but you get a lot of bites, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. You definitely get the bites. Like you said, we fish spinning gear, 40-pound line.
Mm-hmm.
We call it a knocker rig where the weight sits on the hook. And like I said, half a cigar minnow, a whole cigar minnow, or like a strip of bonita or something on there. Flutters down, you get the bite. Like you said, if you hook a big one, it's a 50-50 shot if you're going to get him or not, but you get the bite, and that's the most important part.
I've always worked on the philosophy, give me the maximum number of bites, and I'll sort it out.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You have to go with that always.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'll drop down to 40 and 60-pound monofilament on the troll sometimes and lose a lot of fish, but I'll get more bites, and if I'm getting bites, I know I'm in the right place, and I know we're doing the right thing. We'll just we got to do a better job of getting them in the boat.
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah. And like I said, also with, the bottom fishing's been great. Like I said, the king mackerels have really showed up in good numbers, and we're catching them on the near shore wrecks. So the bigger wrecks closer to the beach, 50 foot of water, and it's been on fire. We stopped for maybe 30 minutes today, caught 4 king mackerels, and then took it to the house. So it's just been a great bite fishing live bait.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That's a fantastic report. Have you heard anything on the inshore?
Not too much inshore fishing from our guys. Not much changes for it. The guys are catching Spanish mackerel along the beaches. The trout are still around. The redfish are around. But when it gets hot, it's hot over here right now. It's 95 or so, over like 100 with a heat index. You got to go to the nighttime fishing, late afternoon or early morning to get on good bites. So pretty much for the next couple of weeks, not much is going to change with that. Not until maybe August or so.
Well, I tell you what, of all the reports, now you're the last report for tonight. And of all the reports we've had around the state, if I was going to hop in my truck and go fishing somewhere, I believe I'd go see Mr. Tyler Massey. You guys are on fire out there. And people,
y'all come on. We're crushing it right now.
People have to realize, whereas the East Coast, if the water gets warm, the fish can migrate on up to North Carolina and all the way up Massachusetts if they want to. In the Gulf of Mexico, guess who's sitting right at the north end of the Gulf? Captain Tyler Massey.
You can go. We got him.
Yeah, you got him trapped, Cap. We appreciate it so much, Tyler. We'll talk with you next week.
All right, Rick. We'll see you.
Thanks a lot. Golly, that wraps up our trip around Florida for tonight. Our thanks to Captain Tyler Massey for capping it off for us. There's a lot of stuff going on. You know, as you head down south, it seems like there's a scattering of dolphin in some areas. Other places they've already gone for the year. This will not go down as a great mahi season. It was acceptable at best, I guess. Captain John Earhart's report really stood out to me. They are stacking numbers of sailfish in the Stewart area. They even had a white marlin the other day, he was telling me. You go on down further to Allen Sherman, and they're finding sailfish where the mahi should be. Nick Stanczyk, it was funny to hear him sound human for a change. He's not catching swordfish every day, just every other day. That's still pretty darn good sword fishing. The boys in the Southwest and in 10,000 Islands were really happy with their fishing. Steve Dahl reporting a 45 to 50 fish day. Just him and another guy throwing artificials at points. Man, that sounds like a lot of fun. You come up the West Coast, Ray Markham said the kingfish have slowed way down, but the snook are biting like crazy. And it's funny to me how many of the West Coast guys have seen small dolphin in their area in the last few weeks. Very unusual for in the Gulf, dolphin to be within the range of the average sport fishing boat. Nobody's unhappy about the red snapper in the Gulf, but all the guys are reporting record size and record numbers. Kevin Lanier pointed out how good his grouper fishing been. He's been stacking some fish over 40 pounds, which are big, big grouper. Tonight's broadcast, along with each and every week's broadcast, is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrid boats? You need to check out youngboats.com. So all in all, it's been a good week. There's been no weather problems to complain about. We'll take another week of that, that's for sure. Been a pretty good June. We're going to roll into July here, and we'll be back to talk about it next week with another edition of the Florida Sportsman Action Spotter podcast. Till then, I'm Captain Rick Riles, and I will see you on the rip.